Hey guys, this is another video regarding, or maybe in the category of stories from the help desk. It's a little bit different than the normal stories from the help desk, and it's going to be from a different perspective. Normally, I say normally, I have like 2 or 3 videos on there. But usually, a story from the help desk is about a support story or something like that. I have a bunch of different thoughts going around in my head. If you don't know, I've been at 3 different conferences over the last month or so, and I've had hundreds of conversations, if not more. Some of them really good. Some of them, um, I guess they were all really good. They were just good in different ways. And I want to try to see if I can piece together the different things that I've talked about or that have come up, and turn it into like a cohesive um, concept that makes sense. So, um, number one that was mentioned or that I had a conversation about, and these are in no particular order. So if you recognize one of the conversations, again, I'm just putting random thoughts and putting them together. So number one um, was a conversation about what it means to work at an MSP. Um, it's well known in the industry that in general, the typical MSP is doesn't have the funding or backing behind it to be able to compete on a financial level with an enterprise or even in some cases a small business directly when it comes to hiring and retaining talent. Specifically with payroll, an employee of an MSP can generally make more money working directly for enterprise or a vendor or internal IT or something like that than they can working at the MSP itself. This is not as true as it used to be. A lot of MSPs are realizing and have established or adopted the new mentality, the realization on the value that they provide and how much they should be charging, which in turn allows them to be able to compete and properly pay for the resources that they have. So it's just something I'm just putting it out there in general. Um, they're the laggers. If you think about the curve of adoption rates, the laggers of the MSP, the majority of the MSPs, for the most part, again, it's not a solid rule anymore, and it's not necessarily as valid as it used to be. But for the most part, there's at least a stigma where employees of MSPs are underpaid. MSPs in general are underpaid, and the conversation that I had was around MSP life being more of a calling than a way to make money. A good myth, um, a myth that always comes into play when you're in school or going through college or whatever, is that go to tech. Tech has money, and it's not that it's wrong. It's also just not exactly correct. A lot of people are chasing money in tech, and depending on where they're going and what they're doing and how they're doing it, sometimes, yeah, there's a lot of money, and sometimes there's not as much money as you thought. And so, if you're looking to chase money, the MSP life generally isn't for you. Um, and again, not that you can't get paid well, and especially nowadays, a lot of this has shifted, but the mentality is still there. And so, the life of an MSP technician is more of a calling, or anyone in the MSP in general, not just a technician. I'm from a tech background, but in general, MSP life is more of a calling than it is uh, uh, a good way to make money or make money fast or just be in the tech space because you want to get rich or whatever. Um, the reason why I call it a calling is because essentially you are accepting the risk of businesses who are relying on you. And I'm going to just talk about this for a little bit quicker. I actually should warn I don't even know if I'm going to get to the end of everything here because I've got a call coming up, and I always just find, hey, let me record a video right before I have a call coming up, and I figure, the deadline will make sure that I come to a conclusion fast enough. But in general, let's say you have let's say you're an MSP, you're a single man MSP, right? You're a single person MSP, man, woman, whatever. And as a technician, you're really good. You've got a good business head. You can do it. You're making money. You got customers. That's great. The problem comes into play is that the definition of an MSP means that the business, the client, your client, let's say you have one client, that client is relying on you to run their business. The business is literally 90% reliant on technology, if not more, especially these days. And so, if you were to disappear, or if you were unable to perform the work that you're doing, um, that and something were to go wrong with your clients, they would be stuck. They would be down. And let's say your client has 15 employees, and something goes offline, and now they're waiting on you to get it back. Let's say application goes wrong, their main systems go down. Sure, nowadays it's mostly cloud. A lot of this is irrelevant, so to speak. But the way MSPs are positioning themselves, maybe it's a security thing, maybe it's they're managing the cloud platform, maybe there's customizations in the SaaS platform that was done by you, and so only you really know where to go or how to do it. They could always go somewhere else, which is always the thing, but in reality, it's not that simple to pick up and find another person who can fill in for someone who's been doing it for X period of time or knows the platform as well. It's yes, it can happen, but there is that level of risk and downtime, which means that they're losing money on their own employees, paying their salaries and whatnot, and they can't operate, which is causing another loss. It's two forms of loss occurring on that business. And essentially, what I'm describing is a lot of pressure that's coming down onto the single one person MSP, um, which is scary. Now, we take that as a single person MSP, and we're like, well, I'm going to have 4 or 5 clients. Okay, well, now you have 4 or 5 businesses that are layering their risk on top of this one person MSP. Now, at some point, hopefully, you've decided or have grown to a point where you can bring on additional people and you've mitigated the pressure of that risk. So it's not just on you anymore. And you have a strong foundational background or strong foundational structure to be able to handle calls that come in. If you're not around, someone else can handle it, and so on and so forth. Your documentation's in good order, and your processes are in place, and so on. But in the end, it doesn't matter how good your structure is. You still have a certain amount of risk that's being layered on top of you. You are the hub or the epicenter of these businesses that are running, and they are relying on you to always be there, or maybe not you always be there, but your business to always be there and always be able to provide the support so that they can continue to function. And the more clients you have, the more pressure that puts you under. So, this is why I call it a calling. There are some other things regarding why the MSP area is not the best or most high paid or whatever. A lot of it comes to do with how we package and sell the MSP offerings. I'm not really going to get into that. There's a blog article on the Rising Tide Group website if you want to read through what that looks like and whatnot. But long story short, the I call the MSP a calling. It's a almost a sacrifice of our sanity, of our life, of our free time, or whatever it is you want to call it, that allows us to put ourselves in the middle and say, I'm going to help these businesses run. So it's just part of the conversation that we had, and we went into some things regarding what that calling would look like and why we should be picking what type of clients we want to work with, making sure that they are aligned with our core values, why burnout is so prevalent, imposter syndrome happens. We're always dealing with new challenges. So I just want to put that out there. That's one of the conversations that I had. Another conversation I had was with a vendor. Actually, they were talking about, we were just at Flow. I was my last conference I was just at was MSP Flow. Is a vendor agnostic conference for automation. One of the first automation only conferences. Automation Nation was around as an automation conference at some point. It was a ConnectWise conference under IT Nation. They canceled it, and we haven't really had a good automation or MSP automation conference since. And MSP Flow is the first one in quite a while. It was a pretty good conference. It was a really good success. And it was put on by Roost, although they did treat themselves as a typical sponsor, and they ran it as a vendor agnostic conference. So I was sitting out, hanging out with CyberFox in at their booth in the hall, and we were just talking about how vendors pitch to MSPs, and the conversation came about that vendors try to um, they try to sell their product by addressing challenges that the MSP needs. So, for example, I'll take CyberFox as an example. I'm not picking on them specifically. I happen to like CyberFox with a bunch of other vendors, but because I'm talking to them, this is who I'll be using as an example. But one of CyberFox's products is called AutoElevate. AutoElevate is a platform that will elevate automatically, hence the name, the UAC prompt depending on rules and specifications that are in place. And the idea is that we can strip administrative rights from all of our clients and users and roll out AutoElevate. And then essentially, when they run something that requires admin rights, AutoElevate will do an analysis. If it matches any pre-existing rules, it can automatically run it as an admin so the user doesn't have to reach out to you. If it doesn't, if it doesn't match a rule, it'll prompt a configurable list of people essentially asking, is this application approved to run as an admin? If it is approved, it will automatically relaunch itself as an admin without an admin account being required. And so the idea is, from a security perspective, we can go ahead and strip all of our administrative rights from our clients, and we can manage the requests automatically using AutoElevate and without causing a significant impact to their business or to their flow. We can increase security by removing their rights. There are a bunch of other functionalities and features in AutoElevate as well, but this is just one part of the platform, and I want to talk about it so I can show the example of what I was talking about with CyberFox. So in this situation, we're talking about how vendors pitch their products, and it's very easy to get up and say, hey, I have this product, and it'll help you remove admin rights from all of your clients. And you can get up there and say, there's a huge security risk running as an admin because of the ability to steal the hash or for pass the hash attacks or any other various vulnerabilities that can exist with running as an elevated session. Having the password known being used regularly, does the user actually log off as an admin, or are they just running as an admin directly? Like, there are so many different ways that the industry has, over the number of years, has come up with a way to challenge or to combat really the administrative rights that have been given out. But essentially, it all ends in either one person has admin rights or there's a second admin account that they use. And AutoElevate really solves both of them. And so that could be a pitch that you can use. The problem is that what I was explaining to CyberFox was that when you get up there and you tell them something like, hey, we have a security risk running as an admin, you're not telling them anything they don't already know. MSPs know that they shouldn't be doing as an admin. The thing that they don't know is what they can do about it. And when you tell them, here's a product that you can use to solve that for you, again, some people are listening and they'll be like, sure, okay, that's a good product. And that's definitely one way to market. But a lot of others, especially as a technician who has gone through the MSP life, where I just talked about, it's like a calling. It's basically almost a war zone where we're just chasing, or we're chasing fires. It's being a firefighter is actually, I think, a core value in some of the MSPs that I know, one of my friends. But we're essentially nonstop chasing emergencies. We can't stop and think. We can't. A lot of the technicians, they're just chasing issue after issue after issue, and so we've been trained, and through circumstances, we've been trained to be very, very critical, very pessimistic or skeptical, and we've also become very, very brutal with the amount of time that we spend on certain things. And so because we have to move on from one to the next, to the next, to the next, we always have to make sure, okay, are we good? Are we done? Can we go next? Right? What's next? What's coming up? What am I doing now? What's going on? And so we don't have a lot of time to sit there and try to really listen to what's going on or what we're being told. And because of that, our walls are very high. So if someone comes to me and says, hey, I've got a tool that can solve your admin rights, I'm going to be like, whatever, it's a tool. It's probably not really good, right? Is it really any good? Like, does it really work? What is that really, what's that going to cost me? How much work am I going to have to maintain it? things like that, right? Those are the immediate things that jump to mind the moment someone tries to sell me anything, which is one of the things that, one of the problems that we're seeing in the industry today is the disconnect on how vendors can communicate to MSPs. So the thing that I told Cyberfox, and I've been thinking about it even more, and it's really a advice to everyone, to all vendors, is that you need to find a way to address their skepticisms that you don't even know they're having, so that you can get around their defenses and get them to stop and listen. Anyone who's a good talker, or anyone who's good at speaking, will get up and tell you, like, you need to have a story. Everything is a story. How do you do a good speech? Well, you create a storyline. So there's when we're presenting as a vendor to MSPs, like, capturing their attention in a story is definitely one of the things to do. And of course, you can tell a story again. I mentioned that to Cyberfox, and like, yeah, we tell a story about how admin rights are bad and like what can go wrong and whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's great, and you have a story and that's really good, but you're still not addressing their skepticism, right? You're telling them a story about something that they already know is going to happen. They're going to roll their eyes and be like, well, I could have called that. What you have to do is address the parts that are not being talked about. Everyone knows security is the issue. That's not the problem. The problem is the human person on the other end, right? Get up there and talk about a story that happened with an MSP who did implement Auto Elevate and what they went through during that journey. Talk about how they managed a difficult CEO who'd insisted on admin rights because it's his company and he says whatever he says goes. Talk about how you have to get around the company, the client of an MSP who has developers who insist on admin rights so that they can do stuff that we don't want to know about. Because we have to support that computer, and if we hear about it, we're going to be like, well, you can't do that. Talk about the story of how you got through rolling out and removing admin rights from hundreds of users on a client or different clients, and what the challenges were there, and how they worked with the users to show them how easy it was, and things like that. The security part is well known, right? We already know the security has been an unanswered, or to most MSP techs, it's been an unanswered problem that's been there that we've been ignoring for the sake of convenience because we don't have a better way to do it. Get up there and show them that someone who's done the better way, like what challenges they faced. Then they start paying attention. Oh, I have a client with an MSP, with a CEO who's going to be difficult to do that. Let me see what your client who went through that, what is your story? Tell me how they handled it. And that'll allow me to then realize, like, this is a way forward. If they can connect with the sentiment of that CEO, because they've had to engage with their own CEO who's had problems, or letting go of admin rights, and they can draw parallels to how it was done in your story to what they can do, right? Not only are you marketing to them, but you're also educating them on a way that makes them realize, like, this is something that you can work with. You can work with your users. You can set expectations. You can do stuff with. And so that was the conversation that I had with Cyberfox at MSP Flow, and it was something that I just wanted to get out there. As someone who came from a CTO of an MSP, and it wasn't that long ago, it feels like, I still make the joke. It's not a joke. I actually, every time I mention IntelliComp, I still say we. My brain, I guess my mind, is still recovering. I'm a recovering MSP CTO. It's my new tagline. And so it feels like I'm still in it. It feels like I still have that same disregard, or what's the word I used earlier? I can't think of right now. I have the same disbelief, or pessimistic view on how things will be done because of the training that I went through at the MSP. I was there for 13 years. The experiences that I've gone through has trained my mind to react and behave a certain way. Skepticism is the word I was looking for. And so for me, I see vendors trying to engage, and they're getting frustrated, and they feel like they're being ignored, and they feel like, they're trying, and MSPs can't, they're just not doing it. I'm seeing the other side of that, or I still feel from the MSP side that I don't have time to engage, and you're not telling me anything that I don't already know, or I don't believe what you're saying. And so you need to speak to me to address the skepticisms that I'm not telling you about, right? You need to have that mind. You need to speak to the experiences of what's going on with how I manage the clients. Um, so the two go hand in hand, and the calling mentality and the training that we go through and the things that we're forced to endure as an MSP are kind of what forces or creates our way that we engage with vendors. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a reason why used car salesman is used as a way to describe someone we don't like engaging with. Um, but that's just a typical person, right? The MSP has that magnified to an extent. So even if you're not acting like a used car salesman, it still comes off or potentially feels like we're treating you like one. Um, and so I just want to open that up to your perspective as a vendor. Again, this is a story from the help desk. It is not really a story from the help desk for technicians. It's more just or maybe it is. Technicians like understand the mentality that you have and give the vendors a chance. They're just people for the most part. If they do shady marketing stuff, then by all means nail them to the wall or whatever. But just start with an open mind. Beginner's mindset. Pretend every interaction is brand new for the first time. That's basically it. I had one more thing I was going to talk about, but I am out of time. I have a call coming up, so I'm going to end it here. And if I get to another chance, I will maybe release another video with the other conversations that I've had. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments below.